At about 8 p.m. in the evening, the Easy Rider departed Bluff for Big South Cape Island. On board was the skipper, 2 crew members and 6 passengers. As the vessel departed the wharf, an observer noted that it was sitting low enough in the water so that small wavelets were lapping onto the deck, and water was draining out of the freeing ports at the back end of the vessel. The Easy Rider was somewhere in the area of the Bishop and Clark's Islands at the western end of Foveaux Strait. This is an area known for strong, variable currents and turbulent water. The Easy Rider was engulfed by a large wave in this area and capsized. The Easy Rider remained upturned and afloat for about 2 hours before it sank. The only survivor was 1 crew member who had been sitting out on deck at the time. He described a wave swamping the deck and the vessel heeling violently to port and capsizing. The survivor spent 2 hours sitting on the upturned hull before the vessel sank. He then spent an extraordinary 16 hours in the water before being rescued. He was not wearing a life jacket, but a fuel container had floated free from the vessel as it sank, and he used this for flotation. Tragically, as we know, 8 people died. 4 bodies were recovered and 4 are still missing, declared drowned. At about 5 p.m, an oil slick was spotted on the sea surface by a helicopter pilot. The survivor was found about 1 hour later, and the first of the 4 bodies was recovered that evening, as shown on this diagram. The search was suspended when darkness fell and resumed the next day, and that is when the 3 other bodies were recovered from the sea. On that same day, the Easy Rider was located on the seabed in the vicinity of the oil slick. The Easy Rider did not have sufficient life-saving equipment for the number of people on board. There was as few as 4 life jackets to share between 9 people. The life raft would normally have activated automatically when the vessel sank, but in this case it was found caught in the vessel's rigging, so it was unable to reach the surface and inflate. It was only a 4-person life raft. There were 9 people on board. While in the area of the Bishops and Clark's Islands, seawater from a breaking wave engulfed the deck of the Easy Rider before it capsized. This would have had the same effect as loading a weight high up in the vessel. It would have sunk the vessel lower in the water and raised the Easy Rider's centre of gravity. Every vessel has its limits to what it can withstand. If the crew does not know what those limits are, then the risk of them exceeding them is going to be high. In this case, the skipper did not know those limits because he had not been taught them. He had not been taught them because he had not undergone the prerequisite training and was not qualified to be skipper on the voyage. We know the Easy Rider was poorly loaded and that it had marginal stability, so marginal that it need not have been a particularly large wave that ultimately caused it to capsize. We know the Easy Rider was operating in rough and potentially confused sea conditions at night. Night navigation makes it more difficult to read the sea conditions, and it makes it more difficult for search and rescue should an accident occur. The dynamics of poor ship stability and large breaking waves have combined to overwhelm this vessel, causing it to capsize with the loss of the 8 lives. Lives that could potentially have been saved if there had been some means of alerting the authorities to the capsize earlier. Lives that could have been saved had sufficient life-saving equipment been available and used.